one of the bloodiest days in history, August 2nd, 216 BC. When the morning sun rose over the plains of Cannae in Italy, it witnessed a scene that still makes humanity shudder. On one side, the might of the Roman Republic, over 86,000 soldiers who had never known true defeat. On the other, just around 50,000 foreign troops, led by a man about whom Roman mothers told their children terrifying bedtime stories. Hannibal Barca. That name is still spoken in military academies with a mix of respect and dread. A general who not only defeated Rome, but changed the very art of warfare. The Battle of Cannae was not merely a clash of two armies. It was a chess game played by one mind against a far larger enemy, where every move was written in blood. Today, we will relive that day, feel every moment, understand every decision. This is a story of vengeance, of hubris, and of human ingenuity pushed to its extreme, where the line between victory and defeat becomes as thin as the edge of a sword. Come with me, back through the currents of time, to that morning when the air smelled of iron and destiny was about to turn.
Hannibal's story is not that of an ordinary general. It is the story of a fire lit in childhood. 9 years old, a temple, the idols of Carthage. Hannibal's father, Hamilcar Barca, stands holding his son's hand. The blood of a sacrificial animal is still warm on the altar. Hamilcar's voice carries pain, anger, the bitterness of defeat. Son, place your hand upon this altar and swear an eternal oath that you will never forgive Rome. You will be Rome's enemy for life. You will fight them. You will destroy them. That little boy, whose eyes should have held the spark of playfulness, swore an oath that would dictate the course of his life. These were not just words. This was psychological programming. In Hannibal's mind, Rome was no longer just a political enemy. It became an existential foe, a power whose destruction was his destiny. Hamilcar Barca was a hero of the First Punic War, who had lost. Carthage was forced to surrender, to pay a crippling war indemnity. This humiliation, this defeat, seeped into the DNA of Hannibal's family. Hamilcar turned to Spain. There were silver mines there, resources to rebuild an army. And Hannibal, he was growing up. On the harsh lands of Spain, he received military training. He was not just becoming a general, he was becoming a philosopher, a general who understood psychology, who could read the enemy's mind. After Hamilcar's death, it was Hannibal's turn. By age 26, he was commander-in-chief of the Carthaginian army. His eyes held the same fire as his father's, but along with that fire, there was also a cold, calculating intellect. Hannibal knew a direct naval assault on Rome would be suicide. The Roman navy was too powerful, so he conceived a route no one had thought possible. The Alps. 8,000 feet high, snow, cold, death. To the Romans, these mountains were the edge of the world. No one could cross them, especially not an army with elephants, horses, and supplies. But to Hannibal, the impossible was merely a challenge. The autumn of 221 BC, Hannibal stands at the foot of the Alps with 50,000 troops, 9,000 cavalry, and 37 more elephants. Before him are mountains of ice. Behind him, Roman allies. He looks back. His eyes show no doubt, only resolve. He tells his army, "We will not turn back. We will cross these mountains. We will defeat Rome on its own soil, either victory or death." 15 days. That's how long it took to cross the Alps. In those 15 days, Hannibal lost 1/3 of his army. Only a handful of elephants survived. Soldiers slipped on ice, fell, died. But they crossed. When Hannibal's battered
descended into the plains of Italy. The Romans were stunned. This was impossible. This was magic. This was the work of the devil. Hannibal had won the psychological war. He was now a legend, a nightmare made flesh, knocking on Rome's gates. And now, 2 years later, he stands on the field of Cannae. Behind him is that same army, hardened by ordeal, victorious in battle, brimming with confidence. On the other side, Rome has assembled its full might, 8 Roman legions, each of over 5,000 men, more than 86,000 soldiers in total, the largest army Rome had ever fielded. 2 consuls, Varro and Paulus, their mission, eliminate Hannibal, avenge Rome's humiliation. But Hannibal knows, numbers don't guarantee victory. Ingenuity does, and he has conceived a strategy that will be written on history's pages in blood.
The morning of August 2. The air is humid, the weather is hot, the sky is clear. The plain of Cannae is wide and flat. The Aufidus River flows on one side, gentle hills shadow the other. In the Roman camp, morning preparations are underway. Soldiers clean their weapons, polish their shields, sharpen their spears. Some soldiers are quiet, others are confident. They know they outnumber the enemy 2 to 1. Consul Varro emerges from his tent. He is a confident man, arrogant. He thinks, today will etch his name in history. Consul Paulus, on the other hand, is more cautious, experienced. Concern shadows his eyes. He tells Varro, we must not be hasty. Hannibal is cunning. He wants to lure us into open battle. But Varro does not listen. His ears ring only with the sound of victory. In the Carthaginian camp, Hannibal is up before dawn. He positions his troops, shows each man his place. His strategy is simple, yet deadly. He arranges his army in a giant crescent formation. At the center, his weakest troops, tribal soldiers from Spain and Gaul, untrained. Their only job to hold the Roman charge and then slowly retreat. At the tips of the crescent, his best troops, the veteran Libyan infantry. These are the men who have fought with Hannibal for years. They are his heart, his strength. On the flanks, the cavalry. On the right, Numidian light cavalry. On the left, Hannibal's most lethal force, Spanish and Gallic heavy cavalry. Hannibal stands with his brother Mago. He gives final instructions. The center will retreat, but very slowly. When the Romans are fully committed in the center, then you attack from both sides. Mago nods. But Hannibal, if the center breaks? Hannibal smiles, a dangerous smile. It will not break, because the Romans will think they are winning. And a winning army never retreats. It advances, and in that advance, it dies. 8 a.m., both armies stand arrayed on the field. 86,000 Romans in a broad, deep line. Their shields glitter in the sun. Their spears point skyward. This was the world's most formidable army. And facing them, Hannibal's army, smaller, but fire burns in every soldier's eyes. Hannibal has told them, today will change history. Hannibal stands astride his white horse. He stands on a small hill overlooking the field. His gaze sweeps over the Roman army. He studies their formation, gauges their movements. And then he raises his hand. A signal. The Carthaginian army begins beating their shields. Drums thunder. War cries echo in the air. The Roman army responds. Their noise shakes the heavens. And then Varro gives the order to advance.
The Roman army moved forward. The ground trembled. The sound of 86,000 footsteps was like an approaching earthquake. Hannibal's center, those weak tribal troops, raised their shields, leveled their spears. First impact. A sound like 2 mountains colliding. Iron on iron. The scream of men. The Roman army was powerful. It pushed forward. Hannibal's center began to slowly give way. But this retreat was orchestrated. It was not a rout. It was a dance. a dance of death. Varro watched from a distance. A smile spread across his face. "Look, they're retreating. We are winning." Paulus, who was closer to the center, shouted, "No, this is no ordinary retreat. It's controlled." But his voice was lost in the din of battle. Meanwhile, on the flanks, another drama unfolded. On the right, Numidian cavalry clashed with Roman cavalry. It was an even fight. But on the left, Hannibal's cavalry crushed the Roman horsemen. They were more numerous, more experienced. Within an hour, the Roman cavalry was forced to flee the field. Now, Hannibal's cavalry was free, and Hannibal gave them their next order. Go to the rear of the Roman army. Encircle them. This was the moment when the Roman army sensed something was wrong. In the center, they were still advancing, but around them, Hannibal's crescent was slowly inverting. The weak center was retreating, but the strong wings were pushing forward. A Roman soldier, Marcus, said to his comrade, "Look, they're surrounding us." But it was already too late. Hannibal raised his hand again. This was the second signal. Now came the moment Hannibal had waited for. The Libyan infantry stationed at the tips of the crescent surged forward. Suddenly, swiftly. This was the army that had waited in silence. Now they attacked like lions. The Roman army, now deep in the center, saw new enemy forces appearing on both flanks. And from behind, Hannibal's cavalry had arrived. The Roman army was surrounded. Completely. This was the scene that would be remembered forever in history. 86,000 soldiers, in a pocket. Attacked from the front? From the right? From the left? From behind. Hannibal had executed his strategy to perfection. The double envelopment. The hammer and anvil. Now the Roman army had no way out. No escape route remained. Varro watched from afar. His face had turned white. His eyes were wide with disbelief. This couldn't be happening. It was impossible. But it was happening. Paulus was trapped in the center. He gathered his last remaining men. "We will not surrender. We are Romans. We know how to die." But even dying had become difficult, because the Roman ranks were so packed that soldiers couldn't properly wield their weapons. They trampled each other. They suffocated. Hannibal's army pushed from the outside in. Spears thrust. Swords fell. This was no longer a battle. It was a slaughter. It was a slaughter.
Afternoon had come. The sun was at its peak, but even its light could not hide the horrors of the field. The ground was red with blood. Piles of corpses had formed. The screams of the wounded echoed in the air. The Roman formation had completely broken. Now they were just a mob, a terrified, dying mob. Hannibal watched from his hill. His face showed no emotion, no joy, no sorrow, no pride, only a cold detachment. He was like a surgeon performing an operation. His commander, Mago, came to him. "Hannibal, we've won. This is the greatest victory in history." Hannibal only nodded. "It's not over yet. Finish them, all of them." Those words, all of them, were etched into history forever. The Carthaginian army continued its work. They advanced over piles of corpses. They killed every living Roman. Some Romans tried to flee, but where could they go? To the Aufidus River? The river was already choked with bodies. To the hills? Hannibal's troops were there too. One Roman soldier, whose name we will never know, picked up his dead friend's body, used it as a shield. He fought on, died fighting. Consul Paulus was still alive. Only a few dozen soldiers remained around him. He raised his sword.
For Rome, for Rome. An arrow came, pierced his chest. He began to fall. The last sight before his eyes, the Roman standard, now soaked in blood, falling to the ground. The sun began to set. Evening approached. The sounds grew fewer, the screams faded. Only one sound remained, the sound of Carthaginian spears finishing off the wounded. Hannibal descended into the field. He walked among the corpses, his boots soaked in blood. He saw a young Roman soldier, wounded, dying. The soldier looked at Hannibal. His eyes held not fear, but wonder. Hannibal looked at him for a moment, then moved on. Mago came again. We have counted. We lost 6,000 to 8,000 men. The Romans? Over 50,000, perhaps 70,000. Hannibal gave no reply. He climbed a high point, surveyed the field. A vast open plain, now covered with dead. Here and there, the last breaths of the wounded. Here and there, riderless horses wandered. Here and there, spears stood planted in the ground. Night had fallen. The moon rose. Its white light made the field even more ghastly. Hannibal's army walked silently back to their camp. They had won, but there was no celebration on their faces, only exhaustion, a deep, soul-crushing weariness.
The next morning, Hannibal sits in his tent. Outside, his army is burying the dead, or rather, collecting and burning them. Mago enters. Excitement is on his face. "Hannibal, the way is clear. Rome is only 250 miles away. Let us march. Let us take Rome. End the Republic." Hannibal looks at him. That same cold detachment is in his eyes. No. Just one word. Mago is stunned. "No? Hannibal, don't let this opportunity slip. We have destroyed their entire army. Rome has no army left, no generals left." Hannibal stands and looks out from his tent. "Look, Mago. Look at these corpses. These are not just soldiers. These are Roman citizens, farmers, craftsmen. Every household has lost a man here. Every family in Rome weeps today." He pauses, then continues. "And when a nation weeps like this, it either breaks or it becomes stronger." Mago doesn't understand. So what do we do? Hannibal takes a deep breath. "We will wait. We will see if Rome's allies desert her. We will see if the cities of Italy join us." This was the decision that historians still debate today. Could Hannibal have marched on Rome immediately? Could he have ended Roman history? Perhaps yes. Perhaps no. Hannibal had no siege equipment. Rome's walls were strong. His army was tired, wounded. But most importantly, Hannibal underestimated Rome's psychological resilience. When news of Cannae reached Rome, there was no panic, no wailing. A silence fell. A deep, dreadful silence. The Roman Senate was convened. Senators sat in silence. Then an old senator stood up. He said, "We will not debate. We will not mourn. We will do only one thing: fight." And Rome decided to fight in a way history had rarely seen. They freed slaves, enlisted them in the army. They gave weapons to boys below military age. Women sold their jewelry, raised funds for the army. Rome did not surrender. It gathered all its strength. And Hannibal, he remained stuck in Italy. For 15 years, he won more battles, but he never achieved another decisive victory like Cannae. Rome adopted a new strategy: avoid Hannibal, attack his allies. Slowly, Hannibal's power waned. Finally, in 202 BC, at the Battle of Zama, Hannibal was defeated by the Roman general Scipio Africanus. Carthage lost. Hannibal was forced into exile. And then, one day, when the Romans came to capture him,
Hannibal raised a cup of poison. He looked toward Rome one last time and said, "Come, Romans, come and ease an old man's dying." He died. But Cannae, it lived on.
Today, 2,000 years later, Cannae still speaks to us. It is not just a historical event. It is a lesson, a warning, a guide. In military academies, every young officer studies Cannae. They learn. Numbers do not always guarantee victory. Ingenuity is more important than strength. Understanding the enemy's psychology is more powerful than weapons. Hannibal's double envelopment strategy is still studied today. Napoleon learned from it. German General Rommel used similar tactics in World War II. But the lesson of Cannae is not just for soldiers. It is for everyone. In our daily lives, when we feel surrounded, when problems attack from all sides, we remember Cannae. What did the Romans do after Cannae? They did not give up. They learned from their mistakes. They reorganized themselves. And in the end, they won. Cannae was Rome's greatest defeat. But strangely, this very defeat became Rome's greatest strength. Because that defeat taught the Romans, we are not invincible. We must be better. We must be wiser. And when a nation learns from its defeats, it becomes unconquerable. Today, the field of Cannae is empty, green, peaceful. But if you listen carefully, you might still hear the echoes. The sound of 86,000 footsteps, the clang of iron, the sound of last breaths, and Hannibal's words, all of them. These echoes are trapped in the pages of history forever, so that we do not forget, so that we learn, so that we understand what humanity is capable of and what humanity can suffer. Cannae was a bloody day, but that blood gave us a lesson that lives on thousands of years later. Never underestimate your enemy, and never be so arrogant in your strength that you forget to use your mind.